There are moments in life when everything feels too loud. The emails, the deadlines, the silence after bad news, the pounding in your chest when you're pretending to be okay, but you're anything but. You smile in the meeting, but inside you're screaming. You scroll through your phone, not for joy, but for escape. And in those moments when your mind is spiraling, your energy is collapsing, and your hope feels thin and quiet, truth remains. You were made to endure more than you believe. You were built with a deeper strength than you've ever accessed. And that strength, it's called resilience. But not just any kind. Not the grit your teeth, bottle it up, fake it till you break kind of toughness. Not the denial disguised as discipline. I'm talking about the kind of resilience that bends but never breaks. That breathes in the middle of the storm. That feels pain fully but refuses to be defined by it. Dale Carnegie understood this long before mental health was a trending topic. He saw that life wouldn't always be kind, that people would disappoint you, that stress would build, that failure would sting, that fear would shout. But he also saw that what made some people thrive despite it all wasn't luck, wasn't talent, wasn't circumstance. It was emotional resilience. And he taught it. In quiet conversations and massive auditoriums, in trembling speakers and overwhelmed executives, in ordinary people who wanted to feel strong again. He gave them something simple, something powerful, something you can use today. A 3-step formula to rebuild your emotional resilience. 1, grounded not in theory, but in action. And here's where it begins. Step 1, master the compartment of today. Carnegie said, shut the iron doors on the past and the future. Live in day-tight compartments. Think about that. What would happen if, just for today, you refused to worry about tomorrow's storm? What if you stopped dragging yesterday's failures into today's effort? What if you gave yourself permission to deal only with the next hour, the next conversation, the next breath? This isn't denial. This is discipline. It's refusing to let your mind wander into battles you're not meant to fight yet. Because the human mind breaks not under pressure, but under scattered pressure. When you try to carry everything, you collapse. But when you carry only today, you realize it's heavy. Yes, but manageable. So right now, pause. Forget next week's meeting. Forget the argument from last night. Forget the question of what happens if everything goes wrong. Ask yourself this. What's one thing I can control today that brings me peace? Not perfection. Peace. Maybe it's cleaning your room. Maybe it's sending a difficult but necessary text. Maybe it's pausing to breathe. Maybe it's choosing not to engage with that one person who always stirs your anxiety. Whatever it is, do it. Own it. Protect it. That's how you begin to build resilience, not by solving everything, but by focusing your strength where it actually matters. And you'll notice something. When you stop leaking energy into the past and future, you have more strength for the now. You show up calmer, sharper, more present. And presence is your power. Because the present moment is where decisions are made, where growth happens, where peace is planted. And if you learn to master today, you can handle anything. Here's the truth no one wants to admit. Most of our emotional suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from what we tell ourselves about what happens. You lose the job, and your mind says, I'll never recover. You get criticized, and the voice whispers, I'm not good enough. You feel anxious, and you think, something must be wrong with me. But Dale Carnegie knew something most people overlook. We live inside our interpretation of events, not the events themselves. And that leads us to step 2 in building emotional resilience. Step 2, rewrite your inner narrative. Carnegie taught this principle to thousands. Our thoughts make us what we are. Pause and really feel the weight of that sentence. Because if it's true, it means that every time you interpret stress as a sign of failure, you strengthen your fear. But every time you reframe stress as a sign you care, you strengthen your resilience. You become what you dwell on. So the question isn't, how do I eliminate stress? The question is, what meaning will I give it? Let's get practical. Next time you feel overwhelmed, don't fight the feeling. Name it. Call it out, like a friend walking through your door unannounced. Hello, worry, I see you. Hello, anger, you showed up again. Hello, fear, you're early today. This is not weakness. This is emotional ownership. It's recognizing that you are not your thoughts. You are not your panic. You are the observer of those emotions, and you get to respond. Now, after you name the feeling, ask this. What else could this mean? That simple question opens a door? You missed the promotion? Maybe it's not a reflection of your value. Maybe it's a redirection towards something bigger, deeper, more aligned. You feel nervous before speaking up? Maybe it doesn't mean you're incapable. Maybe it means you care deeply about doing it well, and that's a strength. You feel low energy today? Maybe it doesn't mean you're broken. Maybe it means your body is calling for restoration, not rejection. Reframing isn't lying to yourself. It's choosing the most empowering interpretation that's also true. And Carnegie believed in truth not as a weapon, but as a foundation. Because real resilience isn't built on denial. It's built on clarity. So here's a challenge. For 1 week, track your inner dialogue. Catch the moments when your thoughts spiral. Write them down. Question them. Rewrite them. And each time you do, you're strengthening your emotional muscles. Because the real battlefield isn't out there, it's in here. And you win, not by silencing fear, but by talking back to it with wisdom. Here's a phrase you can borrow when the spiral starts. This is uncomfortable, but I can handle it. This is painful, but it's not permanent. This is hard, but I'm not alone. Say it out loud. Say it in your heart. Say it until it becomes second nature. Because emotional resilience isn't about never breaking down. It's about knowing how to stand back up with a stronger story in your mind. In one of his trainings, Carnegie told a story of a man who lost everything. Business collapsed. Friends disappeared. Future uncertain. The man was swallowed in despair. But Carnegie sat with him and simply asked, "What do you still have that matters?" The man paused. "My wife, my health, my ability to learn." Carnegie smiled. "Then you have the foundation. Build from there." That's what this step is about. Reframing the rubble into raw material. Turning the noise in your mind into a voice of leadership. Not through motivation, through mastery. Not through hype, through truth. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to accept every story fear tries to sell you. You have the power to rewrite the narrative. And when you do, you don't just feel better. You become better. Now comes the turning point. Because once you've learned to live in the compartment of today, once you've rewritten the script in your own mind, there's only one thing left to do. Move. That's step 3. Forward motion even when it's imperfect. See, emotional resilience is not built in stillness. It's built in motion. Carnegie believed deeply in this. He said, asterisk, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. Asterisk. That single line has changed more lives than most people will ever realize. Because when you're stuck in anxiety, or drowning in disappointment, or lost in self-doubt, the last thing you feel like doing is doing something. But that's exactly when it matters most. You don't need clarity to act. You don't need motivation to start. You just need to take the next right step, no matter how small. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt anxious about something, but the moment you did something, about even something tiny, you felt a shift? That wasn't a coincidence. That was your brain recognizing the power of movement. An email sent, a phone call made, a room cleaned, a journal opened, a walk taken, one action. That's all it takes to disrupt the cycle. Because when you act, you interrupt anxiety's story. You remind your nervous system, I am not helpless. I have choices. Asterisk. And choices are where resilience is born. Even when the outcome is uncertain. Even when you're tired. Even when you failed before. Carnegie never taught people to be perfect. He taught them to be in motion. The best speakers he trained weren't always the most talented. They were the ones willing to speak before they felt ready. The most successful salespeople weren't the slickest. They were the ones who asked for the sale, even with sweaty palm. And the happiest people? They were the ones who stopped waiting for the perfect feeling and chose to act their way into feeling better. That's emotional resilience. Not waiting for peace to show up, but creating it through motion. Asterisk. Let's get practical again. You're overwhelmed? Don't try to fix everything. Pick one thing. You're afraid to start the project? Set a 10-minute timer. Begin. Don't think. Just build momentum. You're exhausted by people's expectations? Speak one honest sentence today. One boundary, one truth. You're anxious about your future? Make one decision today that your future self will thank you for. Because here's what happens. One small action opens a door. Behind that door is confidence. Behind that confidence is clarity. And with clarity, you move faster. But you never get there unless you're willing to move first. This is what most people miss. They wait to feel ready. But ready doesn't come before the first step. It comes after. So today, no matter how you feel, take the step. Even if you're scared. Even if it's messy. even if it's just 5 minutes of forward motion. Because action isn't about fixing everything. It's about reminding yourself who's in charge of your life. Let me tell you a quick story. There was once a young man, recently laid off. His savings were drying up, confidence shaken, hope almost gone. He attended one of Carnegie's sessions by chance. Saturday in the back, said nothing. At the end, Carnegie walked by him and asked, "What's one thing you're afraid of doing right now?" The man answered, "Calling my former clients. I feel like I failed them." Carnegie smiled and said, "Then start there. Call just one." The man went home, pacing, heart racing, but he made the call. That call turned into a conversation. That conversation turned into an opportunity. That opportunity became his next chapter. Not because he was fearless, because he was in motion. That's the gift of action. It transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's stuck, and you start seeing yourself as someone who moves anyway. That's real resilience. So today, ask yourself, what is the next action? Not the perfect one, not the dramatic one, just the next one. Then do it. Don't think. Don't justify. Don't delay. Because the power you're looking for is already inside you, waiting to be unlocked by motion. Let's pause for a moment, not to slow down, but to go deeper. Because emotional resilience is not just about what you do. It's about who you become. Carnegie didn't just teach people to act. He taught them to transform. He believed that confidence, peace, clarity, they don't come from pretending you're someone else. They come from remembering who you really are when the noise is stripped away. That's why the work of resilience isn't about getting stronger in the way the world defines it. It's not about becoming untouchable or stoic or perfectly composed. It's about becoming authentic, grounded, honest, and deeply anchored in something greater than your emotions. Because your feelings will rise and fall like waves. But your identity, that can be built on rock. Let's be honest, life is unpredictable. There will be setbacks, people will disappoint you, plans will fall through, doors will close. And in those moments, the temptation will come to believe what fear whispers. That setback means you're a failure. That rejection means you're unworthy. That mistake means you're weak. But here's the truth that resilience people know deep in their bone. You are not your emotions. You are not your results. You are not your worst day. You are the sum of the choices you make, despite the emotion. You are the story you choose to tell yourself when no one else is watching. You are the quiet discipline of grace, practiced again and again, when life doesn't go your way. That's what makes you unshakable, not because you don't feel, but because you've trained yourself to rise. And the deeper reason you can rise, because your life has meaning that's bigger than this moment. There's a reason you've been given breath today. There's a reason your mind still dreams, even when your body's tired. There's a reason your heart still beats for something more even when everything around you feels like less. You were not made to stay stuck. Resilience is a signal of design. It's the inner proof that you were made to recover, adapt, grow. And when you begin to believe that, you stop reacting to life, and you start shaping it. Let me tell you a story Carnegie loved to share. A young man stood in front of an audience, about to give his very first speech, hands shaking, palms sweating, voice barely audible. He started, stumbled, paused, and then, just as he was about to walk off stage, Carnegie stood and said, "Finish. Even if your voice cracks, even if no one claps, even if you forget the words, finish." So the young man did. Not perfectly, but honestly, completely. When he sat down, Carnegie whispered, "Now you've proven to yourself you're someone who finishes what you start." That moment wasn't about the speech. It was about the identity that speech unlocked. And that's what resilience does. It teaches you that your strength isn't in being flawless. It's in refusing to abandon yourself when things go wrong. It's in the quiet decision to say, "I'm still here. I still matter. I still choose hope." Even when the lights are off. Even when the applause doesn't come. Even when the outcome isn't what you prayed for. That is real strength. And a beautiful paradox. The more resilient you become, the softer you get, not harder. You become more patient, more open, more able to empathize with others who are walking through storms of their own. Because you've been there. You've fought battles no one saw. And now you walk differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet authority. Not with noise, but with weight. The kind of weight that makes people lean in. The kind of weight that creates peace when you walk into the room. The kind of weight that says, if I survive that, I can survive this too. That's what you're building, not just coping strategies, but character. Not just resilience for today, but wisdom for a lifetime. And it all began the moment you stopped trying to escape discomfort and started asking, what is this moment trying to teach me? So let me ask you again, who are you becoming? Because the answer to that question matters more than any goal you'll set or habit you'll track. It defines your capacity to love, to lead, to influence, to rebuild, to begin again and again and again. And when that answer becomes clear, there's no circumstance, no comment, no crisis that can take it away. Because resilience isn't something you use, it's someone you are. So now you know, emotional resilience isn't just a personality trait. It's not something you're born with or left without. It's a set of choices you make every day to live inside the strength of today, to rewrite the script in your mind, to move forward even when it hurts. That's the formula. It won't always be easy. There will still be days when the weight returns. When your mind tries to convince you that you're behind, when fear pretends to be your future. But now, you know what to do. Asterisk. You won't shrink. You won't spiral. You won't run from your reflection. You'll pause. Breathe. Remember the 3 steps. Close the door on the chaos. You don't have to carry tomorrow. You just have to carry today. Speak truth to your emotion. You are not the story fear tells. You are the author now. Take one action, not to fix it all, but to remind yourself, I'm not stuck, I'm still moving. And with every small decision to try again, you prove something greater than strength. You prove faithfulness. Faithfulness to your purpose, to your growth, to the better version of you who's waiting on the other side of effort. This is not just self-help. This is self-leadership. And when you begin to lead yourself this way, with compassion, with clarity, with consistency, you'll begin to lead others too, without even trying. You show up to work with more calm. You speak with more patience. You connect without forcing it. You stop managing emotions and start mastering your presence. And when you walk into a room, people feel it. Because resilient people don't need to prove anything. They simply are. Steady, clear, free. So here's the question. Are you ready to stop reacting and start choosing? Are you ready to stop bracing for impact and start building your foundation? Are you ready to stop postponing your peace and practice it instead? Then start today. Don't wait until you feel better. Don't wait until the plan is perfect. Don't wait until someone else says it's time. Because you are the one you've been waiting for. And the moment you choose to show up differently, your life begins to change. This is the real work. And you're already doing it. So if this message lit a fire inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Let someone else feel the weight of what you just realized. Because the world doesn't just need more strong people. It needs more resilient ones. Ones who bend, but don't break. Ones who fall, but don't disappear. Ones who feel pain, but don't let it close their hearts. And if this message moved you, if something in your heart said, yes, that's who I want to be, then this is your moment. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs it. And most of all, subscribe to Dale Carnegie Impact, where we turn timeless wisdom into life-changing action. This is more than content. This is a movement. And we'd love to have you walk this journey with us. Because you're not just here to survive what happens to you. You're here to rise from it. Let's keep rising together.